everyone, my name is Jasmine, and today's topic is going to be centered in Japan. Specifically, it's going to be something that many people love, many people hate, hopefully something that everyone got access to, and even something that will determine our future. That's right, let's talk about education and schooling in Japan. Someone once said, the main hope for a nation lies in its proper education of its youth. And with the US and Japan valuing different things, it makes sense that their schooling education would be different as well. First things first, education in Japan is a national responsibility. Much like the US's Department of Education, Japan has its own version, called the Ministry of Education, Science, Culture, Sports, and Technology. School starts in April and ends in March. Confused? Let's break it down. School starts in April and then goes all the way to June, and then you have a break. Then school starts again in September, then goes all the way to December, and then you have another break. And then in early January and all the way to late March, that's another school section. School starts in April because it's symbolic of spring, the newness, the freshness of life. School starts again in September because when people come to study abroad from other countries, it's easier for them to catch up because most of them start in September like us. 195 days a year are devoted to school and school activities. And like the US, kids go to school for 5 days a week. Saturday being a free day, which the kids can go pursue academic and extracurricular activities. And yeah, they say optional, but everyone knows it's pretty mandatory. Most kids do attend those. So in Japan, it's mandatory and free for kids to go to school from 1st grade to 9th grade. But why only till 9th grade? Japan has a 6-3-3 model, meaning that 6 years are elementary, middle school is 3 years, and secondary is another 3 years. Secondary is something that we would call high school, so it's your typical 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. But why that weird gap between 9th grade and 10th grade? This brings me to another key point in Japanese education and schooling: entrance exams. In order to gain access to these secondary grades that we call 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, you need to take an entrance exam as a typical 9th grader. But wait, after you finish 12th grade, you need to take an even harder entrance exam in order to get to a postgraduate or university program. So much emphasis is put on these entrance exams that 75% to 85% of all Japanese students attend university preparation track or cram schools after class. You guys might be thinking,
what's so special about their entrance exams anyway? We have those for college too.
Aren't they basically a Japanese version of the SAT or ACT?
Fundamentally and on a surface level, yes, they're just tests. But what differs is the way that the Japanese use and view these exams. And it shows the underlying fundamental foundation that these Japanese schools sit upon. But the key difference between Japanese schools and US schools is where they place competition. What is the role of competition in school and with their classmates? American school systems run on competition and ranking. Competition is so familiar that it's at the point of invisibility. Every student is pitted against each other, classmate against classmates. They're all fighting for that same one position. They go do extracurricular activities after school, during school, just so they can be ahead of everyone else. And but the sad thing is that once they get into these universities and institutions, it doesn't stop. They have to keep working hard, keep being the top in order to get jobs and be the top of their schools, so they have more opportunities to do good. It's a never-ending cycle. In Japan, it's not like that at all. Although entrance exam performance is individually measured, classmates are encouraged to feel like they're part of an academic team. They prepare for the big exam the same way that American students prepare for the big game, with a lot of energy and a lot of togetherness. It's more about beating the rival or the other school more than beating each other, because they're all basically on the same team. You wouldn't hurt your own teammate, because what good would that be? Instead, both of you guys improve. Both of you guys do good for the sake of the team, for the sake of the school, so the school looks good. In US schools, graduating students are ranked serially, which heightens competition between their own students. In Japan, the students themselves aren't ranked, but rather the schools themselves. Here's the good things about these entrance exams. After all the academic competition from the entrance exams, once you're actually in that secondary part or college, there's virtually no competition among students. These exams are kind of like a gate. They preserve low levels of competition among Japanese students by maintaining the major locus of competition outside the schools themselves. The phrase competitive entrance exams and non-competitive classrooms is a phrase that most people use to describe Japanese schools. Can we Americans even imagine a non-competitive academic environment that's not ranked on grades or intelligence? In our US schools, if you don't work hard enough, you get left behind. Some people don't even graduate. Japanese students rarely repeat a class due to academic failure or lack of ability. Once you've been accepted to these institutions, you're pretty locked down for graduation. You have overwhelming help to get you to graduation. Dropouts are rarer in Japan than in the US. Hey, did you know that some Japanese specialists estimate that the average Japanese high school graduate has obtained the same level of education as an American student who has gone to college for 2 years? In fact, grades don't really matter at all, and they're not the ultimate measure of intelligence or achievement for the Japanese. Most of the time, for students and for parents, grades are there to be looked at to indicate normal progression, not an indicator of excellence. With less competition in the classroom, Japanese students are willing to work together as a team better and promote the success of the whole. There is so much more emphasis on effort rather than ability. This is why cheating is not really the worst thing in Japanese schooling. Let me explain why. Cheating is a pretty bad thing in America since it destroys the foundation that American schools sit upon. Since everyone is judged directly on their skills, cheating shows that education to America is basically a rule-governed competition. Since there's no competition in Japanese classrooms, cheating is not really seen with the same moral indignation as Americans would. Cheating doesn't hurt Japanese students and their ranking significantly because there is really no ranking. In fact, cheating can sometimes be seen as over-enthusiastic helpfulness. The only time cheating is unacceptable, like 100% horrible and wrong in Japanese schools is during exams, but not for the same reason why we Americans think it would be. Since exams are there to test for progress and mastery of skills, cheating interferes with a student's ability to fully understand and fully learn and grasp the whole topic. A child not getting full mastery and full understanding of a lesson or a topic is more important on whether or not it unfairly affects their grades. This concept is something that many Japanese students who come to America for schooling struggle with because the notion and idea of every exam counting to your grade, and if they fall behind and don't keep up, they're left behind. It's not like Japanese schools where they'll stop and they like everyone progressing together. The phrase, "the nail that sticks out gets hammered," is pretty good imagery to describe how the Japanese schools view individuality, self-expression, creativity, and critical thinking. Japanese schools focus on hard work, discipline, and perseverance. No separate honors classes or rank, because everyone moves at the same pace. Again, we see the emphasis given on the group rather than the individual, which shows a lot of what Japan values. Another key part of Japanese education is moral education. And yes, US schools and other countries do teach moral education, but there's such a stronger emphasis. It's the center of their teaching, the center of their curriculum. General compliance of students for rules pertaining to dress, grooming, and manners are strictly enforced. It's argued that sometimes these rules are more stressed upon than academic rules. Some examples of a typical moral education in Japanese class. 1. The importance of order, cooperation, and regulation. 2. Endurance and hard work. 3. Individuals' place in school, family, nation, and world. 4. Harmony with nature. And so many more. The list goes on and on. Moral education and adherence to them are so important to these schools because any bad behaviors from their students reflects badly onto their schools. These schools are responsible for building discipline in their students. Which brings me to the topic of teachers. Teachers are actually very well paid in Japan and well compensated by the government. They have a really high status in Japan because their role in building a student up as a person is vital. There is little to no non-teaching staff. They maybe have one nurse and one janitor, maybe. That's because the students and teachers are there to serve each other. They eat all the same lunches usually in elementary, and they all take turns serving each other. Everyone cleans the classroom after. Japanese education, as you can see, has a strong emphasis on indivisibility and group, in comparison to America's focus on individuality. Although people on both sides argue that their school system is better and the other is wrong, it's important to remember that the same things we see and perceive may not hold the same meaning to someone else. The beauty of differences is that it gives us the opportunity to learn from each other and maybe improve ourselves. And that's a wrap. My name is Jasmine Thomas, and thanks for listening.